After 15 years, I think, we have a new Indiana Jones movie, and is the final one. I think it's pretty cool knowing that we are still getting Indiana Jones at this stage in Harrison Ford's life. And I had grown up with the original trilogy, mainly The Last Crusade, because that's the one I watched the most. But yeah, Dial of Destiny is out, and either way, I watched Dial of Destiny. Also, I just realized I didn't think of a little witty one-liner at the beginning, because I think I'm just excited that there's a new Indiana Jones movie. Bear in mind that this is a spoiler-free video. If you do want me to go in depth on this, because there are spoilers in this, there's a lot to talk about in terms of plot and what actually happens in this movie. But I'm going to largely avoid everything big that happened in it. Just so, no spoilers, you can go in blind for this. So as I said earlier, Dial of Destiny is the final Indiana Jones movie. But also, on top of that, this is a first in this franchise in a couple of different areas. As I said earlier, this is the first Indiana Jones movie in 15 years. This is also the first one to not have Steven Spielberg direct it. James Mangold is directing this one, who had made Ford vs. Ferrari and The Wolverine and Logan especially, along with 310 to Yuma, and among many other films that are pretty versatile. This also happens to be one of the most expensive movies ever made. I'm pretty sure this has like a $300 million budget, and that's like Avatar level money here. And the story here is essentially an Indiana Jones story. There is an artifact that keeps getting thrown around that supposedly has the power to rewrite history, and along with Indiana Jones and his goddaughter, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and there's got to be Nazis, so we have Mads Mikkelsen, great actor Mads Mikkelsen, taking the villain role in this, and they're all going after this artifact. The plot overall is what you expect from Indiana Jones. It makes a lot of sense on why we have a new Indiana Jones movie, and that's like this. But along with this, there is a weird sadness to this movie that I can't even now. It's been like a full day after I've seen it, and I'm still trying to figure it out. It's a weird feeling. Maybe it's because James Mangold has worked on these bleaker movies before, especially Logan, and this just feels bleak in a way that I didn't expect from an Indiana Jones movie. But for the most part, I thought it was okay. It was a little jarring at first, but I feel like it was easier to get into as the movie went along. I think the action here is pretty good as well. You can see that there's a lot of like chase sequences and driving, and since James Mangold's last movie was Ford versus Ferrari, you can see like all the ways of, oh yeah, he knows how to film like a chase sequence. You can see the technical prowess of James Mangold filming these driving sequences coming from Ford versus Ferrari to this, and I think that was a very nice detail to have in this movie. I do want to mention the visual effects as well, because actually a lot of this movie was filmed on location, and every now and then was using CGI to spruce things up a little bit. So it felt nice to see like actual locations in a movie that is so based heavily in globetrotting. That I think that's very good that they just decided to like go to these places and every now and then use effects to spruce things up. But the big talking point here is there is essentially a half-hour opening sequence in this movie that is set at the end of World War II, and they have de-aged Harrison Ford. And so he looks right out of Last Crusade, because I believe this takes the flashback in this takes place in between Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And whenever Harrison Ford isn't talking, I think it's pretty impressive. I think that that's where a lot of the money in the budget went into this. But whenever he talks or moves, you can obviously tell that they altered his face. It's a little jarring. It's not the worst thing I've seen with this technology, but you can tell it's digital, even in his voice, because they didn't alter his voice that much either, at least not that I could notice. That it still kind of sounds like old Harrison Ford coming out of young Harrison Ford's mouth. And it's a little bit of a disconnect. I want to get to the acting now, mainly because Harrison Ford now has been very openly, his personality now is basically, uh, oh, I'll do it for money. like stuff like that. If he gets paid, he will do it. But especially, even when he plays Han Solo, you can tell that he was going for a check, even though I think he did a good job in The Force Awakens. With Dial of Destiny, though, his heart's in this. He gives one of the probably his best performances in Indiana Jones from an emotional standpoint. I feel like that was such a nice, refreshing thing to see from Harrison Ford, since a lot of his personality is just like, oh, I'll do it for a paycheck, I'll do any of that. But it was actually nice to see him try in a movie like this. This and Blade Runner 2049. And I'll throw in The Force Awakens as well. When it comes to these legacy sequels, if it's something he actually cares about, he will bring everything, and he has been, especially in Dial of Destiny. A big dividing point in this movie is Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, Helena. She is essentially the co-lead to Indiana Jones, and people don't like this actress. I think she did a very great job in Fleabag, although there have been a couple other things that I don't know. There's some things that just don't work with me for her, and I feel like, at least when we first saw this character, I got really worried, but as it went on, that character got toned down a little bit, and she has a fantastic monologue at the end of the movie, or the third act of the movie, actually, which I'll get to the third act of this, no spoilers. But she has an incredible monologue in the third act that I thought was great, and it really helped it did redeem her character to me. I'd also like to shout out Mads Mikkelsen, which I feel like if you know who Mads Mikkelsen is, I don't need to tell you how good he is as an actor, and he does a great job in this. But I would also like to shout out Toby Jones is in this. I'm not going to say who he's playing, because that also is a spoiler. But he's not in the movie too much. He does a very good job with what he's got, though, and it was, again, nice to see him again, really, because I haven't really seen him in anything lately. But now we gotta talk about the third act, which, again, no spoilers, which is definitely going to be divisive. They take a really big swing for what the final act of this movie is. And I couldn't believe it at first. I really couldn't. But as the scene went on, I kind of got used to it, and I just went, wow, they're actually doing it. Good for them. I know some people that I've talked to about this, that it hasn't landed with them. I think it's fine. I appreciate that this movie went for a big swing like this, but I will completely understand if you are not a fan of it. But I like it. Also, shout out John Williams. He does the score for this again, and apparently this is his last score. He's retiring after this movie, which makes me very sad, but I think the music was great in this too, so good job. I guess that's really it for Dial of Destiny. This is exactly what you expect from an Indiana Jones movie. But I will say, if you're expecting something from the original trilogy, well, at least Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, because I'm not a Temple of Doom guy, temper your expectations a little bit. To go in expecting what's essentially a classic, because admittedly Indiana Jones movies have a high standard, and this is still a good Indiana Jones movie. It's just not the original trilogy. But I respect it. I'm really glad this got made, because I still enjoyed it overall. There are a couple of things that I took issue with when it came to the story. Again, I'm not going to say because that's spoilers. And also some really goofy things that don't really fit with Indiana Jones, in my opinion. But I still think Dial of Destiny was a fun movie. I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny a 7 out of 10. I think I'm satisfied with that. Knowing that this is the last Indiana Jones movie, I'm pretty satisfied with this. This was a good way for this franchise to go out. My question for you is a simple one. If you have seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, what did you think about it? I know that this is probably going to get a little divisive, definitely not as divisive as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or anything like that. But I still feel like this was a fun enough movie in my opinion, so let me know what you think in the comments below about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. See ya!